Time for some early breakout candidates here on Fantasy Football Today Express. I'm Jamey Eisenberg. That's Dave Richard. He's given us 10 breakout candidates for 2026. Obviously, this list can change. It's only the end of February, but Dave's got some guys that he's targeting. All right, Dave, give me the first breakout candidate that we're looking at.
I'm actually going to give you 19 names. And the first 9, we're not even going to talk about. They're obvious. They are rookies from last year. They're obvious breakout candidates from Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton to the 2 stud receivers, Tedro McMillan, Emeka Ibuka. It would help if I could talk. Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Colson Loveland, Harold Fannin, Tyler Warren. They're going to be on everybody's breakout list. Forget those names for now. I still have 10 names. This is an interesting year for breakouts, by the way, Jamey. I don't know about you, but there are a lot of names that I am into. And how about a 5th-year breakout at wide receiver? Maybe it's a 6th year. I guess it's a 6th year. In the case of Devontae Smith, what if A.J. Brown leaves Philadelphia and the Eagles don't really do anything to replace him and they commit to Devontae Smith as their number 1 wide receiver? If he clears 15.5 PPR points, that's the best ever in his career. And I think he could do that if he was promised a ton of targets, stays healthy. Even if Philadelphia stayed conservative with the run, he could still fall into higher target production if there's no A.J. Brown there. So that's the first name off my list, and kind of surprising to go with somebody who's not in their 2nd year, or 3rd year, or 4th year in Devontae Smith. I'm kind of curious to get your reaction to that.
It certainly could be the case. I think we always talk about some of these guys that have had early career success and then they fall off a little bit. What category do they fall in? And I think this is certainly a guy that can have almost a re-breakout type of season, especially if Dallas Goedert leaves on top of A.J. Brown leaving. So there's a lot to love about his situation. So yeah, for sure, somebody that will skyrocket up draft boards if Brown and Goddard are not there. Who's the next guy on your list?
Let's go west. And I think I know which guy I want to take in Arizona between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson. I'm going to surprise you. I think Michael Wilson is the breakout candidate in Arizona, wide receiver, and not Marvin Harrison Jr. I talked about this last week on the show. It's a new coaching staff. They've got no commitments or ties to either of these wide receivers. But what we saw from Michael Wilson, primarily when Marvin Harrison was off the field and Michael Wilson was getting a ton of targets, can't be ignored. And this coaching staff should try and figure out which one of these wide receivers they want to try and concentrate targets on when they're not targeting, or when they're not asking their quarterback, rather, to target Trey McBride. And it's contingent on a lot of things, including what we hear out of training camp and who the quarterback is going to be in Arizona, what the offensive line is going to return like this year, how's that defense going to be, tons of factors. This is players. These are players on a way too early list. They belong on this list now. I don't know if either one of them are going to be there, but I thought Michael Wilson was sensational when given the opportunity. And if he continues to get opportunities, then of course he could have his best year ever.
Absolutely could. I'm more in the Marvin Harrison camp just because of what the targets were for him compared to Michael Wilson when both were healthy and active. Harrison was the guy that was featured there. I understand your point about the regime not necessarily being tied to Marvin Harrison. I did like the fact that they just had the groundbreaking on their new practice facility, and they had a handful of players there. Marvin was one of those players there, so I think he's going to be somebody that they view as a cornerstone of this franchise. I like the setup more for Marvin Harrison compared to Michael Wilson, but we'll see again how things shake out throughout the course of the offseason. All right, Dave, give me one more guy, then we're going to take a quick break.
Let's do the exact same thing that we did in Arizona, except in Chicago. Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore's attendance in Chicago could be a factor. Colson Loveland, kind of like how Trey McBride is a factor in Arizona. Maybe not to the same extent in Chicago, but that's going to be a factor. Both of these wide receivers had portions of the year where they were really good for fantasy. Which one do you think I'm more inclined to call a breakout, and which one are you more inclined to call a breakout?
I believe you had Burden on your list of the first 9 that everybody's going to call a breakout. So I'm guessing you're going with Odunze.
No, I'm going with Burden. I liked Burden. There were 4 games without Odunze when he averaged 6.5 targets per game.
So I'm confused. Is he part of the 19 or is he not part 15.
Of the No, Burden is not part of Burden is part of the 19. Odunze is not. For now, okay. I like Burden as the breakout candidate.
I'm sorry. So is Burden part of the original 9 or is Burden in the next 10?
I'm mentioning him now, so he's part of the next 10.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think the way that he finished the year, how could I say the things I said about Michael Wilson and not say that about Luther Burden? More importantly, this coaching staff did draft Luther Burden. They did not draft Rome Odunze. And if Odunze is going to be pigeoned into the outside role and Burden can work in the slot, work outside, do a lot of gimmicky stuff, then it's all going to lead to more opportunities. And Burden in his second year should be able to develop and be really, really good.
So we've talked about this recently. Adam and I have. I don't think you were on the show, or maybe it was an Express episode where Adam brought up about Odunze's first half of the season compared to the second half of the season when he was injured, and what Burden was able to accomplish in the second half of the season. Then when Odunze came back at the end of the year, I think the one thing that Adam brought up was that his route participation rate dropped a little bit for Burden when Odunze was healthy. My counter to that was what Odunze did in the first half. There was no Colston Loveland really as a significant part of the offense. So I think there's a lot to like about both those guys in the sense of DJ Moore potentially gone, I think would be the biggest boost for both of them.
Yes.
I'm more in the Burden camp for exactly the reason you said. Like, this is the regime that drafted him, targeted him earlier than I think some people expected. And what we saw in terms of flashes and what he can do, I think there was much more upside in the favor of Luther Burden. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go rapid fire through the rest of Dave's list. I think we only got through 3, so we got 7 more to go. So we're going to take a break here on Fantasy Football Today Express.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, we're back. All right, Dave. So let's give me the names, and I'm going to pick 2 more guys that we'll discuss. So give me the other 7 names of the breakout candidates.
We're kind of on the same wavelength. Let me do it this way. I'm going to give you 3 wide receivers, and then we'll do the names for the remaining 4. Alec Pierce, Ricky Pearsall, Parker Washington. All 3 breakout candidates. Which one is your favorite of those 3?
Well, I think the one that hasn't really broken out yet, or at least had significant flashes of breakout potential, or has breakout potential, hasn't shown breakout statistics yet, is Ricky Pearsall. So let's talk about him.
4 games with 7 or more targets last year, 13.5 or more PPR points in each of them. We're saying this about a lot of wide receivers today. If they get targets, they can get numbers. It means opportunity is necessary. It means staying on the field is necessary for Ricky Pearsall. But if the 49ers don't have George Kittle to start the season, maybe they not only move on from Brandon Ayuk, but also Jawan Jennings. They might need somebody to be that steadying force in the passing game, and Pearsall could be that guy. They lower the 8 out a little bit. They raise the target volume. They make him a focal point. Easy guy to go after with a mid-round pick.
We'll see where Pierce ends up, and we can talk a lot more about his breakout potential when he signs a new deal after being a free agent or stays in Indianapolis. And Michael Pittman, is released as a salary cap casualty. And Parker Washington looked great stretch of games last season. We'll see what role he fills for the Jaguars if Brian Thomas stays on the team, and what Travis Hunter's role is in that receiving core as well. All right, what are the last few names that we got?
Here are the last 4 names, and you're going to get a stat from me with the last name that I give you. Trey Benson, Bashal Tutin at running back, Oronde Gadsden, and Isaiah Likely at tight end. And Isaiah Likely has 9 career games with at least 6 targets. Jamey, 12.5 PPR points in 8 of the 9 games for Isaiah Likely. Get this guy to a team where he can be part of the offense and not an ancillary piece where he's only going to get 3 targets per game. You're hoping that he catches a touchdown. Let him go out there and be a playmaker for a team. To me, that's one of the easier breakouts to forecast.
We were hoping that the Ravens would move on from Mark Andrews and he would be that guy for Baltimore. They signed Andrews last year to a 3-year contract extension. Maybe he follows John Harbaugh to the Giants and is that guy for Jackson Dart. Maybe he goes to Atlanta, which is a destination that I think a lot of tight ends would prefer because of Kevin Stefanski and what he's done for tight ends there if they decide to move on from Kyle Pitts. All right, I want to ask you just one quick question, and then we'll end our Express episode today.
Okay.
So if we get to the summer through free agency, through the draft, and we find out that the Cardinals are naming Trey Benson their starting running back because they've moved on from James Conner, and the Jaguars let Travis Etienne go, and Bashal Tutin is their running back for 2026, which of those 2 guys do you like better?
Tutin. I really love the talent. I love the offense in Jacksonville. I think it's only going to get better. I think Tutin can be good catching passes out of the backfield as well. Not that Benson can't do that, but I'm a little bit worried about Benson's health. And I'm almost certain that whoever they have in Arizona, there will be somebody else taking significant work away. That will be a 2-headed monster.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be the same in Jacksonville, but I agree with you. I think Tutin definitely has a higher ceiling. And yes, you got to worry a little bit about Benson's health. Just frustrating that when James Conner goes down, Benson doesn't stay healthy and not able to show us or showcase what his skills could have been as the lead running back for the Cardinals, but maybe he'll get that chance in 2026. All right, great list, Dave. We'll talk about more breakouts throughout the rest of the offseason, getting some more sleepers and busts as well. This has been another fun episode of Fantasy Football Today Express. For Dave, I'm Jamey. Thanks for watching and listening.